Good day, little sweetie pies. So glad to be together again. It is a great thing to be together again. And we're continuing our story about the incredible plans and the work God went to make us a world. And where our story ended the last time was the first two people in the world had been made, Adam and Eve. And now our story today is going to start up where, remember, there were the 7 days of creation, 6 days of making things. And then God took the day off. That was his day of rest. Well, our story today really is what happened between those 6 days of creation and then when God was resting. I believe that's about when our story starts today. And our story today is about Adam and Eve and their life in the Garden of Eden. Now, if you're following the Sunday School Bibles, remember, this is on page 14 of the Beginner's Bible. And then if you're in the Sparks Bible, it's on page 8. Obviously, we're starting at the first of the Bible again, aren't we? Creation story was the first part of it. Well, our story today is about really Eve, the lady of the two of them. And our story today is going to be what happened. At first, everything was great and good and wonderful in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve had been put in charge of everything in the Garden of Eden. They'd been put in charge, of course, think up names for all the animals and then figure out how things are going to be run, where do they want to have their garden, what kind of vegetables they had to test what vegetables were good to eat, what fruit was good to eat, what animals were really friendly, what animals were prickly. All those things, they had to learn all of those things in the Garden of Eden. And everything just went wonderfully. It was so marvelous in the Garden of Eden. And then Adam and Eve were thinking about how are they going to do these things? What are we going to give the names? Boy, Adam's really trying to decide what should that animal be called. I think he ends up calling it a donkey. I'm not really sure. But they were very busy and they were very happy in the Garden of Eden. Everything was going great. And so here it looks like, we're getting a little complicated on our story here because now all of a sudden Adam's going to take a nap and then Eve's going to get made and then boom, they are together. I don't know what those first pages were about, but nonetheless, things were going quite well in the Garden of Eden until one day. Now, we're going to just have a little thing here. God had said, everything in the world is yours. You're in charge of all the animals. You're in charge of things. I only have one rule for you. Out of the whole world, one rule. And that one rule is you do not touch the fruit on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Well, that's a very famous tree in the Bible stories. And we're not really sure. A lot of people say it was an apple tree. In this story, it doesn't look a lot like an apple tree. It looks more like a purple pear tree. But again, people are just drawing the pictures that they think go along with the Bible stories. And so Adam and Eve could do anything they wanted, but stay away from that one tree. Whole world, one rule. The one rule was don't do it, right? Do not touch the fruit on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Well, time passes, they're having a good time, things are going well, and then Sneaky Snake appears. Now, Sneaky Snake is really the evil one. Who we call in the Bible, the devil, Beelzebub, Satan, lots of different names for the evil one. And the evil one was really the one cast out from heaven, who proves to be a constant adversary and combatant, which means always wanting to fight with God. And so that is the evil one. And the snake in our story, I'm calling him Sneaky Snake, often referred to as the serpent or the evil one in the Bible stories, or Satan or Beelzebub, lots of names for him. And Sneaky Snake comes over And he whispers to Eve, oh, you know why God doesn't want you to touch that tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Do not eat that fruit. Do you know why? And Eve says, oh no, I don't know why. And the sneaky snake said, because if you eat the fruit off that tree, you'll be as smart as God is. And God doesn't want anybody as smart as he is. So that's why he said, don't touch that tree, because he doesn't want you to be as smart as he is. Oh, really? Well, I tell you, Eve did an awful, awful thing. God only said, don't do that one thing. One thing. Don't eat the fruit off that tree. And so she picks herself up one of those. And again, they don't look like apples to me. They look like purple pears. But what am I to say? So she takes it, and she takes a bite of it. And you know what? Nothing happened. It was great. Tasted wonderful. She loved it. And she goes over and she talks to Adam. And she said, you know what? The fruit on that tree is very delicious. I don't know why God told us not to eat it. I think it's perfectly marvelous. I bet it'll make a good dessert tonight. And so Adam, oh, we weren't supposed to do that. Oh, no, it's no problem. I found out from the snake over here that if you eat the fruit off that tree, you'll be as smart as God is. That's why he doesn't want us to eat it. There's nothing wrong with the fruit at all. And so Adam takes a bite of the fruit. The one thing God said not to do. Do not touch that tree. Do not eat that fruit off that tree. Stay away from it. Out of all the things they had to do, they marched themselves over and they do that one thing. That sneaky snake whispered to him, don't do it. Oh, yeah, sure, go ahead and do it. Nothing will happen. And then Adam and Eve begin to feel so bad. Not sick to their stomach bad, sad in their hearts. They knew they had done the wrong, bad thing. God had said, you can have the whole world. Go out there, have a great time. But don't do that one thing. And so what did Adam and Eve do? Oh, yes, little missies and misses and misters. They did the one thing God said not to do. And Sneaky Snake is the one who said, psst, it'll make you smarter than God is. That's why he doesn't want you to do it. No. God was trying to teach Adam and Eve how to obey rules, how to tell good from bad. And he was trying to help them learn. And that was the only thing, one thing, don't do this. All they apparently heard in their brains was, do this. And so they feel awful because what has happened, they are beginning to develop a conscience. That little voice in our head that says, this is a good thing to do. Oh no, that's a naughty, bad, wrong thing to do. And sometimes we like to think about a conscience is almost like a little something on our shoulder here that whispers in our ear, and a little something on this shoulder that whispers in this ear. And I'm going to call this one the sneaky snake ear, right? Where he's going, psst, go ahead and do it. Mom said, don't have cookies, it's almost supper. Psst, she won't notice if a couple of cookies are gone. They said, don't touch that wet paint. I wonder what that would be like to touch that wet paint. Psst, don't do it. Sneaky snake whispering in your ear. And over on this shoulder, maybe there is, let's call this one a cherub. A cherub is a little angel. So almost this bad angel, good angel. If any of your, maybe your folks, maybe your grandparents, remember the book and the movie about Pinocchio, the little puppet boy who turned into a real boy. Well, in the story of Pinocchio, there is a cricket. His name is Jiminy Cricket. And I think Jiminy Cricket, if you ever get to see the movie or read the story, is a perfect example of what the good little angel is, the little good cherub, the one that's whispering in your ear to do the right thing. Because God is starting to have people understand that there are good choices to make in life and bad choices. And if they'd stayed away from the tree, there would have been only good choices to make. But no, the devil, the evil one, whispered in Eve's ear, go ahead. You know why he doesn't want to do it? He thinks she'll be smarter than he is. No, God was just trying to have us learn. And so, because of eating the apple off that tree of the knowledge of good and evil, Adam and Eve found out they were going to get kicked out of the Garden of Eden. Remember, in the Garden of Eden, everything was perfect. Apparently, in the Garden of Eden, everything would always be perfect. You would know no pain, you wouldn't get sick, everything would always be wonderful. You didn't have to work hard, you didn't have to pull up weeds and plant seeds and hope it rains and be afraid of storms. None of that happened in the Garden of Eden. It was always perfect all the time in the Garden of Eden. But now, God got so mad at Adam and Eve, and he said, you are gone forever. And some of the stories, this one doesn't show it, but they get kicked out of the Garden of Eden. And some of the storybooks have these fearsome angels standing guard at the entrance to the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve are kicked out, and they can never, ever go back to the Garden of Eden. All right? And then they are out in the world. Oh, it is so hard out in the world. They are hobbling along. They have to find old animal skins to make for clothes. They have to figure out how to make shoes. They didn't need any of that over in the Garden of Eden. And so they wandered off, and it was so hard out in the world. They learned then what they had lost. And they began to understand that only listen to the good cherub, to the Jiminy Cricket, to your good angel. Don't be listening to the evil one, to the sneaky snake over here. No, God has had us learn these things for good reasons. And so life went along for them, and they had to make their own way. And eventually they did have a family, and those families had families, and those families had families, because we're all descended from Adam and Eve, aren't we? But we have learned, pay attention to the angels on your shoulders. Now, you know, if we were here together, I would be pulling this out. Of course, you know this is a plastic snake. Mrs. Hendee would not be keeping a real snake in a little Ziploc. No, she would not. But a lot of people, they, you know, screech, run away. Ow, awful scary, stay away from the snakes. Well, we have learned, really, I suppose, from one another, that the snakes are bad, the snakes are awful, stay away, kill all the snakes. No, do not kill all the snakes. God made snakes for a good reason, not just so that there would be the evil one, could be the snake that would go, psst, hey, I have a good idea. Yeah, no. So if you see snakes in your yard, don't be running and grabbing a shovel and smacking them down with the shovel. No. If you see a snake in the yard, you go and you tell somebody in the house. The only snake that you have to be worried about around here is a rattlesnake. And you know, it goes sort of a little kind of sound. The rattlesnake is the scary snake that we have got, but you can hear it. And but most of our snakes are just wonderful. They lead very good lives. They eat the mice and some of the big bugs and the voles and things that try to get in your garden. And you don't have to be worrying about them. You can call the Parks and Recreation Department if you find a snake, and maybe you put a bucket on top of it, and then a park ranger will come and take the snake and put it back where it belongs, where it's not going to bother people, okay? So, yes, indeed, there are people who study snakes, because there are a lot of things to be learned about snakes and good things about snakes. It's herpetology, and a herpetologist is a person who studies snakes. But our interest in the snake is why we all seem to go, ew, awful, get away from the snakes. Because we sort of remember the Bible story when it was Sneaky Snake who got Eve to do the wrong, bad, naughty one thing God said don't do. All she heard in her brain apparently was, do it. And we've all been paying the price ever since. So you pay attention to your sneaky snake or your little cherub. Do what the good whisper is. Well, now, our things that we get to do today is, first of all, this remembering that God made the whole world for us. The whole world for us. And so that's why we are always trying to remember to take good care of the world, do good things for the world, try to not be polluters, take good care of the world. Because God gave it to us to take care of, and we want to show God we're worthy of doing that. And then, again, we had talked that here is Adam and Eve. Now, this one doesn't have the snake in it, so I bet when you do this one, you're going to want to draw a snake in there. And this does look more traditional, more like the apple tree, all right? And then from last week, I don't know if you remember, you made maybe Play-Doh last week and made some creatures. Well, this is just a really funny, the silliest kind of thing this is if once you decide there are more people coming in the world. Well, these are just eyes and noses and ears that you can make. You can draw circles, get this run off, use those scissors, be careful with the scissors, and then use these to paint and make all the different faces that you would want, all right? So the story of Adam and Eve and the start of how we are going to have a good conscience, which is choosing the good and right thing, ignoring the bad, wrong thing, and remembering always, there'll be a little whisper in one of your ears, this is a good idea, this is kind, this is sharing, this is what we should do. And the other, the little sneaky snake one, right? Psst, no, go ahead, grab it, run, take it away, don't share. Those are the kind of things that Sneaky Snake would like to see us do. Because I think Sneaky Snake likes us to get into trouble, doesn't he? Because remember, he is the one who got us into a whole lot of trouble because Eve listened to him rather than remembering God only wants the good and right thing for us. All right? So, don't be mean to snakes just because there was a very mean snake back in the Bible story. And most snakes are quite wonderful, but we just don't bother playing with snakes because, first of all, they don't want to be played with, do they? No, that's why they can run and slither and hide so well. Alrighty? Okay, then, loves. Have a wonderful week. Hope things go well for you. Play outside, run through the hose. Those are great things to do. Alrighty? So let's close our hands, all right? God our Father, we thank you. We thank you for our many blessings, Amen. Amen. Goodbye, loves. Have a very, very fine time. Be wonderful to the people around you. Bye-bye.